Our next speaker is Sinead Mallet, is from the Neptunus project, and I had a cheeky look at the website earlier. The YouTube explains really what the project is about. It's a really clever idea, so I'm really looking forward to sharing it with the network. And Sinead, I give the floor over to you.
That's great. Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me to speak. It was so interesting listening to Michelle talk about the recycling side of things, and it's great that it's happening. I think, Noreen, you're going to share the screen. Great.
Has it popped up there, Sinead?
Yeah,
again, I apologise. I love my laptop dearly, but it does have its moments. So that's on the screen now for you. Is that right?
Yeah, thank you.
You can just let me know when you want me to change the slide.
I will. I'll let you know. So the Irish seafood sector, it's worth 1.25 billion euros, and it's very important to the economy, in particular in the rural coastal communities. So it would account for 16,000 jobs, both directly and indirectly, and that's increasing every year. So it was 14,000 in 2018, 16,000 in 2019. But there's a lot of challenges in the seafood sector as well. You've got adapting to climate change and moving to the circular economy, and also the rising fears of the marine debris. As you mentioned there, Michelle, the fishermen are picking it up. But the challenges, they're forcing the stakeholders and policymakers and consumers and industries to move towards sustainable policies, practices and processes. And the Neptunus project, it's a great opportunity to contribute to this sustainable development. So it's an Interreg Atlantic Area project, and it's co-funded then under the European Regional Development Fund. So the next slide there, Noreen. And so I'm based in Athlone Institute of Technology, and I'm a postdoctoral researcher, and myself and Ronan is on the call as well. So he's based in NUI Galway, and himself and Owen Clifford are with Moorfish, and myself and Neil Rowan then are in Athlone Institute of Technology. But there's also 11 partners in the project, and they're all based along the Atlantic coast. And so it's 5 countries involved, 11 partners across 7 different regions. So there's a wide variety of skills involved in the project. So looking at sustainable production and consumption, life cycle thinking, climate change, and marine debris, fisheries, aquaculture, waste material and secondary resources. So we will be looking at the packaging side of things as well. So we'll talk to you about that as well, Michelle. So if we look at the next slide then, there's also associate partners from Ireland involved in the project. So there's BIM, Hexafly, Sea Spray, Shore Engineering and Wild Atlantic Oyster. But when it comes to the collection of data in the seafood sector, Ireland's lagging behind some of the other countries. And so, for example, if we look at France and Spain, they have developed data sets, and they're able to give recommendations then. So, for example, they can recommend different types of technology to use that will help the fishing fleets. So Neptunus offers the first insight into how the Irish fishing fleet and the Irish seafood processing will measure up with other parts of Europe. So by the end of the project, then we'll have a good understanding of where Ireland stands in relation to the other countries. So the next slide then looks at the aims of the project.
Am I on the right one now at the moment? Or I know I skipped on to one. Is this the right one now? Sorry, Sinead.
Yeah, that's it. No, the one before that, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Thanks, Noreen. So with all the skills of the 11 partners, we're able to develop strategies and recommend policies to help the companies then transition from a linear economy, which is one where you harvest, produce, consume and dispose, to the circular economy, where you recycle instead of disposing of the waste. And so we use what's known as a life cycle assessment approach. And so what we do is we adopt, we look at the different inputs, outputs and impacts associated with the production of seafood all along the value chain from cradle to grave. And this helps then with process efficiency, energy efficiency, and it also helps in the decision support systems. So, for example, in past research that's done, the life cycle assessment has shown that the two largest contributors to the greenhouse gas emissions from wild fish is the fuels consumption, and then from the point of view of the farm salmon, it's the feed. So a lot of the feed is actually imported in. And when you're looking at life cycle assessment, you're looking at from the very start, so from the fuel on the boat to the fuel on the aircraft, depending on where they're sourcing their feed. So that all contributes then to the greenhouse gases. And once we've gathered the data sets, we'll be able to model for end-of-life impacts. So what is the environmental impact, for example, of recycling or putting product into landfill? And then we'll be able to show the companies what their resource usage from water use and an energy perspective. So one of the other outputs then is the development of an eco-label. And this is very good for the point of view of the consumer, because they'll be able to choose then, make more sustainable environmental decisions based on what's on the label from a water, energy, food nexus. And the water, energy, food nexus, it's basically, they're the three most important resources on the planet. And because of the growing population now, so the population is growing by about 80 million every year, and they estimate by 2030 we'll need 30% more water, 40% more energy, and 50% more food because of the growing population. And it's important then to have the life cycle thinking with the water, food nexus, water, energy, food nexus, so that you can see that the three elements are linked together. So for example, you need water for production of energy, and it's to ensure that, that the life cycle thinking, the water, energy, food nexus is involved in all parts of the life cycle thinking. So based then on our case studies, we'll be able to make suggestions then, for example, on different piece of technology that might help with the processes and the efficiencies and the production activities. And one of the case studies that we'll be carrying out is the first life cycle assessment on the smoked salmon production in Ireland. The smoked salmon is one of the biggest exporters in the seafood sector in Ireland, and we'll be able to undertake scenarios and show whether it's more sustainable to smoke the smoked salmon in Ireland, or whether it would be more economical or sustainable to do it in the country where it's actually going to be consumed. So the second aim then is looking at developing strategies and policies in the supply chain. So for example, from starting with sourcing raw materials, strategies to counter climate change and the marine debris. On the production side of things, looking at eco-innovation strategies, sustainable packaging, energy consumption, and the water consumption. And then on the consumer consumption, looking at strategies for sustainable food consumption and the eco-label. And then waste prevention and management, looking at the circular economy strategy from seafood waste and resources. So the next slide then looks at the different work packages. So there's 5 different work packages that'll help us reach the goals. First one on the left-hand side then looks at the life cycle oriented data sets and models. And once we have the data sets, we'll be able to model certain behavior and see give advice then to the companies on what would be best for them. So it's the second one then is the life cycle using the water, energy, food nexus in the decision making, and identifying ways then to reduce, reuse, and recycle packaging. So like what you mentioned there, Michelle, are the ways to implement practically the eco-design of the packaging without compromising the product safety. So looking at sustainable packaging, but one that won't, making sure that it's still suitable for the fish products. The next one is then looking at the biological cycle strategies, and this is looking at all the waste and the waste trimmings that come from the fish and how that can be used. So for example, it could be used in bio oil or used in pharmaceuticals or cosmetics. So for example, the fish trimmings in the blood water has been proposed as a source of amino acids and other bio-based products. So as to make sure that any of the waste, looking at innovative ways that they can be used, and adding value for the company as well. So it might be another revenue stream in the company. The threats then and the challenges then are adapting to the circular economy transition and the growing threats of the marine debris. So it's looking really at adaptation and mitigation measures to help overcome those. So if you'd like further information, the website address then is Neptunus.project.eu. Thank you very much.